This episode of iFanboy is brought to you by GoDaddy.com, Netflix.com, and eMusic.
Number one!
Woo! Oh, this is two. One!
Just one.
Just one.
Number one!
That's so good.
USA! Welcome to iFanboy, the comic book discussion show.
The
The website, iFanboy.com.
The discussion show / diction lesson.
I always get mixed up when I try to say comic book discussion show. I chew it up. I'm Josh, and I can't talk, and I'm here with...
I'm Ron.
Who can?
And I'm Connor, and we get a lot of email in. Every day we get tons of email, and occasionally there's a good one to talk about. So we have already...
No, there's a lot.
Only a few of your emails are very good.
Most of them are just hateful tirades.
I know I'm fat. Okay. Enough.
Ouch.
I like the one that says you talk too much.
Alex Aguilera from Riverside, California wrote it, and he says...
Isn't that near Chino?
Yes.
Riverside.
With the recent Captain Britain MI13 issue...
I may have just ordered a war. I don't know.
All right, we're going to start it again. All right, with the recent Captain Britain MI13 issue, which was one of our pick of the weeks, what is your favorite issue number one? Not counting how the rest of the series went along, but a first issue that you picked up that got you incredibly excited for the rest of the run. It could make it for an interesting video. Yeah, no kidding, we're doing it. I wasn't supposed to read that part. I have a couple of choices like Ultimates number one, or New Avengers number one, or Criminal number one, all from recent memory. But yeah, I was just curious if you could make an. He basically produces our show for us, so now we're.
So thank you for that.
So Alex,
only you could do the lighting.
So Alex wanted to know what we thought were really good number ones, and it's funny because in preparation for the show, I went into this website and I went and counted all the recent pick of the weeks from 2003 on, because after that we lost all our records, and we have had 42.
Sure about that?
Yeah, I'm sure about that. I used to really fast math. 42 pick of the weeks without number one issues since 2003.
That's almost a year's worth of comic books.
Well, since 2003, that's 5 years, 50 or so.
Let's back it up real quick, and people who don't only watch the video know at iFanboy.com and in our audio show, every week we pick the best book, and that's our pick of the week. So our pick of the weeks have been 42 times.
One comic book every Wednesday. We say this is the pick of the week.
So for
42 times, it's been a number one issue.
And we've been doing it since 2000.
Yes.
Right, but this is only
our records only go to 2003. So let's say for the past 5 years, 42 of those have been number one issues, which is let's see, quick math, 5 times 50. So it's 250 picks. 40 out of those, it's like 18%, 17%.
The records from 2000 to 2002 are at the bottom of the Atlantic. We can't get to them.
With Jean Grey.
Like
Yes.
Titanic.
So we'll put a little.
James Cameron's going after
We'll put
them.
a little box up there if we were whatever the percentage is.
Right,
but
we'll do the math.
It is a high percentage. If it's like around 20% or even in the high teens, it's still a lot.
It's safe to say we like the number one issue.
Why? Why do we like number one issues?
It's sexy.
You love them. Ron has picked 19 of them.
I only had 10.
Josh had 10 and I had 13.
I get excited by the number one issue. What can I say?
You like to jump on, you see a bandwagon go
No,
by,
it's
you
not
hop on it.
No, it's not a bandwagon thing. Yeah, bandwagon things like issue 3. What I like is I like the idea of something new. I like to say something exciting, something different. Yeah,
you join cults constantly.
New shiny. Yeah, no.
He'll be in a coffee shop. It's like,
actually, I want to talk to you about something.
I'd like to go.
But really, you can make a lot of money.
He gets a lot of newsletters.
But no, there's something about the idea of a fresh start, of a blank slate, of new characters that you've liked that haven't been around for a while, creators doing something different. Because read a lot of comics, you get kind of bored. Like I've been, it's up to Uncanny X-Men's up to issue 500.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and when there's a new issue,
it's a new shiny thing.
It's a new shiny thing.
The dating scenario allegory is just right there.
I mean, like
it's like a good first date is what a good, and you don't know. And good first dates can.
Is there anything more exciting than a first date that you really want to be going out with? It's like a book. Yeah, it's like it's a shiny, happy thing. And Ron, personality-wise.
Whereas X-Men 500 is like you've been married to that fat bitch forever. I'm not talking about my life.
Wow.
People will go back in the archives because this is the show where Josh got divorced.
She doesn't watch the show.
I can't believe that just happened.
I love my wife. This
I had
is
a
not
train
the
of
point.
I had a train of thought that I was completely
I was
lost
like,
now.
But yeah, no,
Archie Bunker there. That's what that was. I was playing a
stifle
character.
it. So the number one issue. There's a lot of attractiveness. It's
even know where I was
you
gonna
don't know
go.
what you don't know what it can contain. You don't know where it's going to go. And sometimes a good number one issue leaves you wanting more. And
Yeah.
that's I think
Absolutely.
every one of
It has to.
every one of these ones that I remember. And it's funny because like we're thinking about what our favorite number ones are and stuff like that. And I Phonogram number one was a book that I picked as a number one pick of the week. That the whole series didn't actually pan out to be one of my favorite of all times. But this is Image Comics by Jamie McKelvey did the art and Kieran Gillen wrote it, and it was steeped in Britpop lore, and that really attracted me. And the hype for that book leading up to the first issue, I was salivating for it. And so when I finally got my hands on it, it was such a payoff, and it was such a
Well, you talk about
I
modern.
love you, honey.
You talk about
I will derail this show.
the recent issues. We have a lot of big books made number one pick, like All Star Superman and Astonishing X-Men number one, and Ex Machina,
New Avengers number one.
Avengers number one, Identity Crisis number one, X Factor number one, Booster Gold number one, Green Arrow, Black Canary. Like a lot of the big books, we actually picked the number one issue. But let's talk about older ones. Before we had iFanboy, before the pick of the week.
Before the internet.
What are some of our favorite number one issues?
Well, it's funny because I started going through books and issues and things that I would pick as like my favorite number one. I literally was just like, what? Just off the top of my head, what I go for, and they're all or this. They're either.
You didn't say anything.
I know.
They're all silent or
I'm
silent.
going to. They're all. It's all silent issues. I like silent.
They're all
Chapter-
Marvel Knights or Vertigo.
They're all Marvel Knights 98 to 2000 or Vertigo 2000 to 2002.
And Marvel Knights was the imprint that Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti oversaw
was
in
the
the late
revolution
90s,
in Marvel.
which started the revolution. And Vertigo, as we know, is the kind of the darker alternative side of DC Comics.
It's the adult fiction imprint.
So no,
DC
that's
Comics.
like your taste. That's what you like.
Yes, and it's funny because all comics that come after that, the ones that I really like, are in that vein. And there's a few things that I've added since then. I do read more superhero comics, mainstream stuff.
So when you think of your favorite number one issue, what's the first one?
The very first thing that did pop into my mind, though, was West Coast Avengers #1.
That's a hot comic. That's awesome.
Oh,
That was like your classic Avengers number one issue, which is always.
1984.
Oh my god.
Now that was a miniseries.
This was #1 in a 4-issue miniseries.
Now why do you remember it? I mean, like why?
I
Does it
loved the.
Did you buy it when it came out?
No, I would have been 7.
So you went.
I did. I went.
Yeah.
You can see where I scratched off the thing here. So I
price
paid a
tag?
premium price for this.
Yeah.
At the time, it was 75 cents. That's awesome. I remember buying when I was a little kid. Like, I'm the same way now, but there's like the mainstream thing, and then there's the thing that's a little off to the side of that. I was always attracted to the thing that's a little off to the side. So I was like, I'm not gonna buy Avengers. I'm going to buy West Coast Avengers. And so from that, I really became a big fan of Hawkeye. I always have been a fan of Hawkeye. He's one of my favorite Marvel characters. And this is the prototypical we're building the team issue. Now, we've talked about that a lot.
And the Avengers do that a lot. Every
I know,
few
but
issues
this was
they.
my first.
Oh yeah. Oh.
And so I didn't know who any of the characters were.
Oh my god, did Cyclops join the team?
What
Cyclops on there?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
no.
Wow.
What the front is it's got a bunch of heads, and then it's got in the logo section the question
They
mark.
always did that. It was so exciting.
Yeah.
So
you didn't know.
exciting.
You didn't know who was going to be in it.
And then the other part is like as I read more comics over the course of years, really, I could fill in who these people were.
Yeah.
Well, that's clearly Mockingbird's mask.
Right.
there.
Well, she's married to Clint Barton.
Yeah.
Hawkeye. And I actually just reread this.
Yeah.
Can
Can I guess?
Yeah. Who do you, yeah.
I think Mockingbird
Yep.
on the upper is that Tigra
Yes.
Iron Man.
Yep.
and Wonder Man.
Yeah, you got it.
Haha!
Number one.
They did offer. They offered and got refused by one of the other characters on this.
Doc Samson, with his flowing locks.
No. Anyone
No.
want to make a guess?
Puck.
No.
Hercules?
Puck?
Yeah.
Who's Puck?
Puck's right there. Alpha Flight.
Puck.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Puck.
I don't know. Who's that?
That's the I know.
Timberwolf?
Yeah, I think that's Timberwolf.
Who's that?
Yeah.
That's
Rom, the Space
Rom
Knight.
the Space Knight.
See, it came to me just as I asked.
Was it Namor?
No, it was Shroud.
Shroud.
Shroud
interesting.
turned them down?
Yeah.
What else did Shroud have to do?
Shroud was he'd been building a reputation for himself as a criminal, and he didn't want to throw that all away by joining the Avengers.
That would probably do that.
would do
This was awesome.
What happened with Cyclops?
Huh? He never showed up.
So they just put him on the cover?
Yeah.
He was a
They were
red
like,
herring.
Maybe we'll get an X-Men fan by putting a 3/4 of a Cyclops head.
The red herring.
Basically, it was about like they had said that the West Coast Avengers would be their own separate team, a satellite
LA?
office, everything west of the Rockies. And so
I'm sorry, we can't.
They
sue you
bought
past
they
the
bought a
Rockies.
big estate, they
Stark.
kept calling it estate, and Bobby kept saying, Mockingbird kept saying, it's the estate. He would go, it's a compound. He was very funny. He was overcompensating.
Who wrote it?
Huh?
Who wrote it?
Roger Stern.
No shit, really?
Roger Stern.
Roger Stern, Ithaca's own Roger Stern.
It was pretty good. It was
Yeah,
fun.
cool.
It was a good issue.
You know, you can tell
You're
this is
gonna open
old.
it?
Is the backing board is
Yeah,
brown.
that's not acid free, dude.
No.
You should get this out.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
look
should
at
get
the
that. I
old
can bag and board that
advertisement.
for you if you want.
All right, so let's move on. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna read.
It's funny that
It's not John Byrne.
an ad for the Last Starfighter
It's Bob Hall on pencils.
Bob Hall, yeah.
on pencils. The Roger Stern wrote it.
Yeah, but when did John Byrne? He took over the
Later.
regular.
That was in
series,
the
right?
30s, 40s, 50s.
Okay. Oh, hello. Just finishing up the show here, and Gordon the intern has the week off, so I thought I would tell you about GoDaddy.com. GoDaddy.com handles all of your domain name needs. They've got 99.9% uptime and 24/7 support. You can get .com domain names for as low as $1.99 a month. You can get privacy settings if you're into the whole privacy thing. You don't want anybody to know which websites you own. If you have customers and you're worried about them thinking you're not for real, you can get a domain name secure certificate. And if you've got video blogging thing going on or internet TV, you can get a .tv domain name. So one of the new things that GoDaddy offers. So use coupon code iFanboy to get 10% off all of these purchases at GoDaddy.com. Netflix is one of my favorite things, and it offers over 90,000 DVDs for rental. They've even got Blu-ray titles. You can get the DVDs within one business day because there's over 40 centers where they ship the DVDs out from. They're really quick. Plans start as low as $4.99 a month. And if you use www.netflix.com/iFanboy, you get a 2-week free trial at Netflix. iFanboy has partnered with eMusic to create a playlist of some of our favorite songs. Visit emusic.com/iFanboy, download the songs, and let us know what you think. In the future, we'll be making new playlists for you to check out and enjoy. In addition, eMusic is offering 50 free songs to iFanboy viewers when they visit emusic.com/iFanboy and sign up for a free trial. eMusic delivers songs in the universally compatible MP3 format, which means your music plays on your iPod or Zune with no restrictions or DRM hassles. Simple to use, eMusic syncs effortlessly to iTunes, Windows Media Player, or your favorite jukebox software. eMusic editors feature the best and brightest from the world of independent music, making it easy to find music to fall in love with. eMusic is the #1 site for independent music. Choose from more than 3.5 million songs and pay as little as 33 cents per song. Check out emusic.com/iFanboy today.
But it's funny that you bring up West Coast Avengers because that was the #1 issue that you went back to go get as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And the first #1 issue that I went back and I paid way too much for it was X Factor #1, which was
The original, the old, not
Simonson.
No.
No.
This is way before. I forget. And I'm gonna blank on who wrote it. And
Is it I'm seeing the cover.
the cover's like them like in costume and they're running a Cyclops is shooting and there's kind of like fire.
Yeah.
And
didn't Simonson do the
I went
covers?
back
No, Simonson came on
Was it
later on.
Will Portacio?
No. This is like 1986.
Oh, okay.
1985, 1986.
So the original volume.
Original volume right after they brought back Jean Grey and the pages of Fantastic Four, and then what they wanted to do was they wanted a book with the 5 original X-Men, but the Uncanny X-Men with Wolverine, all that had so much steam they didn't want to shake that up, so they said we'll start another book. And I remember
A lesson they learned many times from.
and so
Hey, this
exactly
works.
yeah. So I'm in it's the late '80s. I'm diving into X-Men lore, and I spent I think $35 on this issue.
Nice.
Which now it's gonna be worth like maybe 15.
Sure.
And
Get
it
fast.
was great, and I'm killing myself because I'm blanking on the creators. But it was the pivotal arc throughout the first story arc was the fact that Cyclops left his wife to be with Jean, and but Jean didn't know he was married, so there was all this tension,
Who was
and
the
it was
wife?
Madeline Pryor. Yeah,
It was a Jean Grey clone.
Who was
it was a Jean Grey clone, yeah, exactly. But Jean didn't even know Madeline existed, and
What I'm saying is,
yeah.
if you're going to go off the reservation, maybe you should get a different flavor.
you should stop talking, I think. But no, but I remember
on,
I remember
just something
the excitement
Asian.
the excitement of reading how these characters came together, the kind of team formation type thing, and all that kind of stuff. Going back to the back issues to #1 was one of my favorite things.
One of the reasons that I like this is because it was not well organized at all. Literally, he calls the Vision.
Yeah.
And the Vision's like, I've set up some appointments and I'm going to send them by. And they show up and he's like, all right, so here's the team. And everyone's like, I never agreed to anything. It's not, he doesn't know what he's doing. And that for me was a lot of fun.
Well, you have one issue here. Why the Last Man #1. This is actually it is #1.
Yeah,
0.
okay.
I read the negative space.
This was my pick of the week. This is
Yes.
before the
Yeah.
data breakdown.
And one thing I've noticed going back is that Brian K. Vaughan excels at the #1 issue.
Yes,
Yep.
he does.
Ex
He knows
Machina.
how to pitch you in a series. Ex Machina #1,
Runaways.
Logan #1, which was a pick of the week, and
Escapists
Escapists
#1.
#1.
Yep.
Why the Last Man #1. All these-
He's good at the
a
hook. He can grab
fantastic
you.
I mean, everything has a hook. Like, Ex Machina was a big deal because it featured the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
Only one tower. I just gave the camera the finger. Only one
At the
tower.
same time you're talking about the World Trade Center.
Only
You hate
one
America, sir?
tower was down. Logan was all about the reveal that he was on Nagasaki. Why the Last Man was the big reveal about all the men died. Like he
Was he in Nagasaki or Hiroshima? He was in Hiroshima.
was Hiroshima. But every #1 issue has that hook that just gets you excited for the
Nails
whole
you.
series. And sometimes it pays off. Sometimes it doesn't pay off. But he's really, really good at the #1 issue.
Well, I was really excited, like, when I look back that
This has got to be like a 9.8.
I picked Last Man #1 because it did pay off. Like, it set the tone for what the series became, and I went and reread these. It's nice when you have to research for this show because you only got to read one issue, and then you're done. You move on to the next thing. It was a really, really good first issue. But it's funny because when you read through a lot of first issues, you go back, you see the cracks. There is always way too much in these.
Yeah.
There's so much in this. We're going to talk about Powers #1. I mean, they're just crammed.
Well, I think that they don't know if they're going to get to tell more. So they've got the
Yeah.
story and they want to get as much as they can in the beginning so they know they're going to get it out there.
Yeah.
This, Why the Last Man #1, it was actually surprising how much he had. Like, you can, and having finished the whole thing, like, he knew at this point what was going to happen. The art was, like, a lot of times you'll see a #1 issue and the art won't be as good.
It's not quite there
Or
yet.
changes. Yeah.
Pia Guerra was just as skilled at this point. Like, it was a really, really well done, well crafted first issue. Beautiful. I mean, just really good.
If you want to talk about the opposite, I think Rising Stars #1, the series didn't hold the promise of the first issue.
When
Whereas
this-
Why did, this didn't.
When this Rising Stars #1, written by J. Michael Straczynski and drawn by the first issue was by Cha. What was it, Michael Cha? I forget. When this came out, we were rabid for this series.
Do you realize that this right here is
Yeah.
legendary? This is the very first comic that Ron Richards ever recommended to me. And look how it turned out.
Hey, come on! At the time, no, we all fell for it.
No, the first year we
the
were all...
the first year
I literally
of that book.
barely knew you, and you were like,
Yeah.
no, buy this comic book. You have to.
Yeah.
My life's never changed since then.
Except at some point you stopped listening. No, but that book had us in that first year enraptured. It was a great tale of what would happen if a generation of about 40 kids had powers and the effect on the universe, not the universe, the world.
If you've seen the show Heroes, you might...
Yeah, a lot of when Heroes came out, a lot of people said it was a lot like the beginning of Rising Stars, and it introduced us to this new universe that we had never really.
And there was a
existed.
murder mystery. Somebody was killing all the kids, and it was just the
It
most
hit on
exciting
every-
first year,
Yeah.
followed by the most disappointing second year where there was no comic, followed by the most disappointing third year when the rest came out. It was...
Forward by Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, it had everything going for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The name was Q Cha.
Q-Cha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who I've never heard of since.
Yeah, so that was almost the opposite number of Why the Last Man. And if you're talking about a really, really important first issue,
Yep.
Josh, you got Daredevil #1 here
Okay, that was
by Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada.
that was
This is signed.
Yes, it is. Signed
Wow.
by Kevin Smith. I have a a lot of #1s from that era.
This
that
is
were
probably-
Why would he sign this cover in a black Sharpie?
I'd give it a 9.7.
We're gonna seal these up after.
We're
this.
slabbing these books. CGC, here
Next
we
issue,
come.
next episode, we're going to slab.
We're pro slab. We
This
got
was-
new T-shirts and we're pro slab.
This is the first issue from Marvel Knights. Marvel Knights was a new imprint started at Marvel Comics by young upstarts Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti, and they were going to do better Marvel comics. I mean, almost like the Image books. They were going to go and do better art and better production,
Yep.
and so that was what the version of Marvel was.
and this was laid the groundwork for what Marvel has become today.
It has
Yeah.
and because of that-
Everything stems from this issue.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, this was 1998 when this came out, and Kevin Smith was drawing out. Now, I didn't know who
Writing.
Joe Quesada was at the time, writing it. I didn't know who Joe Quesada was at the time, although I would learn later. Kevin Smith, I mean, in 1998,
He was the shit. He was
the shit.
Coming off of
to
Clerks,
college-
Mallrats, Chasing Amy.
to college Josh,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
Kevin Smith
yeah,
was...
college. Most
Yeah.
people like
Yeah.
that was
Late
the year,
90s college
98
people,
was
yeah.
the year after Chasing Amy,
Yep.
so that was like his indie cred was restored, and
Yeah.
he
Yeah,
was like,
and you didn't know how he was going to do, and at that time, you know, we're used to TV writers and movie writers and celebrities doing comic books now. That didn't happen.
Yeah, it was a big
before
deal.
that. And this was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just reread it. It holds up. There's a ton in this. And one thing that's nice is I realized that is not in Daredevil at all today is the Catholic thing.
the Catholicism.
religion- yeah, the religion.
And because
aspect.
Kevin Smith has got some issues with Catholicism of his own, such as with Dogma. And
But yet
other-
he's still a religious. But this is
It was an angle.
This was a huge
The
book.
tie to the church and everything, and then this arc also ended up with Karen Page finally dying for good, and Bullseye. It's great.
It's an incredible first issue,
Yeah.
and also one of the other things you'll notice about this, I also have Inhumans #1 here, which came out at about the same time.
That's yours. That's your
This
love.
book, this is the book that introduced me to the Inhumans, and there's been sort of nothing besides that. Also, this is written by Paul Jenkins, maybe a different Paul Jenkins than the one who's working today.
It'd be funny the whole time that he's just never said anything.
He was just a different.
It's like Milli
no,
Vanilli.
I'm Paul F. Jenkins. But on both of these books, when you open them up, there's a gatefold cover.
Yep.
It folds over, and a complete history of whatever you would need to know to read it.
Smart.
And literally, this has panels from
Daredevil.
over the years. These are moments in history you need to know. This is where we are. Go.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen a book that had this kind of production on it. I mean, Joe Quesada's artwork. I mean, you
beautiful.
hear his name, you
It looked
forget
great,
the dude drew
when he was
a hell of a
drawing,
book. And not only that, but like you can even tell like Palmiotti's inks, like they're two things that go really well together, and the colors and just the whole. It was a beautiful book.
It's the revolution right there.
And that really made a big difference to me, and that got me into buying Marvel comics again.
With Amsterdam.
I got it! I know what I want to do with Revision 3!
Too much.
Dude's a freak.
There was a comic that came out a couple years later that similar to Rising Stars tore through our organization of iFanboy, which was Powers #1 by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Avon Oming. It came out originally at Image Comics. It's currently being printed by the Icon imprint at Marvel.
Now I have the hardcover. I cannot find my first issue, which
I
is
have
also
it.
signed.
I have a first issue that you got me. You went
Signed by
to
the
a
whole
signing
crew,
by the whole crew. And this was so at the time this came out. What it was like '99. It was like late '99, and Bendis had been writing a lot and putting out a lot of books through Caliber and then through Image, doing the Jinx World line.
Yep.
You know, Jinx and Goldfish, and he did Torso, Fire. At that point, I'd never heard of the dude. I'd never heard of him, and I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was Connor who was like, "You should check this out."
Via Josh. Josh
Yeah.
told me.
I
told you.
literally was in the store,
Yep.
and I saw the covers, and I thought they looked like they reminded me of Batman the
Bruce
Animated
Timm.
series,
Bruce Timm style,
and
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
and
Big
I
jaw.
looked through it, and I didn't see any superheroes, and I thought, okay, that's cool. I can get behind that. And I got to say, I didn't really appreciate it at first. I read the first two, and I was like, they're all right. And for some reason, I stuck with it. And then later, like, I was like, I'm very glad I stuck with this. Rereading the first issue of Powers now, it's like the best of everything Bendis does in it. I mean, it's all there. Like, the first part is fast-talking David Mamet or homicide-style dialogue,
Right.
and police dialogue, and there's a hostage negotiation right away. And then Pilgrim shows up, and he has the quirky, weird interaction with her.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there's a kid that he rescues from the hostage situation, who I should have gone back over this. It's Callista,
Yeah.
who then goes on to become the
Yeah.
new Retro
New-
Girl
Yep.
later.
Yeah.
Sorry. And I actually hadn't realized.
Oh,
She's a
really?
little
Oh,
kid in
yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
a lot of time
Yeah.
has passed. And
That's why they have that connection. And
Yeah.
a ton of time has passed.
yeah, I don't know why.
And the book has evolved. It's one of those interesting things where the book has evolved from that first issue and from that whole thing. But because the creative team has stayed together, they've evolved together. And they've evolved the story and the characters. Powers to me is going to be one of the most important works of this decade, I think. And
this
so,
to me is the book that sort of brings everything together for me.
Yeah.
This doesn't fall into either of those categories. It's not Marvel Knight. It's not Vertigo.
Right.
It's a book that is something.
It's sort of
Yeah.
a bridge book, though.
It is.
Yeah,
It was one of my first indie series that I started following.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
Religiously.
bridge between Marvel Knights and Vertigo.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
the elements of
Yeah,
both
definitely.
Sort of Venn diagram.
I mean, it reminds me, like, I wish that Bendis
Nice.
wasn't just doing. I'd love to see Bendis go do something else.
Yeah.
And not that I don't love his work for Marvel, because he's doing some of the best work at Marvel.
But this is the edgy stuff that was this.
man.
And this
to,
stuff you
like,
can tell he really, really loves
to let
write.
him, but if you go back and you look at the stuff he used to do, like to just let him go nuts on something he can think of and make up from real. Thank God he's still doing Powers, but honestly, anyway, there's one more page in here that I wanted to bring up, that I think was the moment for me that I was like, oh, this is a great book. Walker is in the police station And Callista is sitting there, and they're having like an odd conversation. There's a silent panel, and then she looks up. And she goes, "What's a clitoris?" And he looks at her.
This is the awkward show.
And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, yeah, nobody seems to know. And I was like, oh, that's him. And
That's Bendis,
and
yeah.
Nobody
that's
knew,
Bendis, yeah.
you know, that was him at the time.
And you couldn't get away with that at a Marvel book. You couldn't. I don't. You maybe could get away with that at a Vertigo book. Yeah,
could
probably.
definitely get away with
yeah,
that.
probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, actually, yeah, you can. Yeah.
Are you serious?
But the fact that it was that image allowed it to push that little envelope, and it was so,
man.
yeah.
So these are some of our favorites, and I think what it comes down to is there's so much promise in the first issue. It's that this is going to be the great book. This is going to be the next Powers. This is going to be the next Daredevil run from the Marvel Knights. Or
You're always
Rise of the
waiting for that.
There's always the
next one.
chance that this is the book you're going to open up and discover something new and great. I think that's the big draw to the number one.
You know what's cool about these ones, for example, is that like they all turned into something.
Right.
Yeah.
I bet there was a lot of first issues that I went and loved.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I don't remember them now.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And so like the cool thing about these is like I can look back and go, wow, you know, because of this I've been reading Daredevil for 8 years.
I remember one. Bullet Points.
Yep.
A couple of years ago, J. Michael Straczynski.
That's two good number ones that didn't turn out well by J. Michael Straczynski.
Yeah, actually. Ooh,
Well, you're talking about don't remember. I rarely think of Rising Stars anymore. In fact, when you brought it over, I was like, oh, Rising Stars. Like I'd forgotten how much I loved the
That
first year.
first issue was the first
doozy.
8 issues were great.
Yeah.
But
Well, like we mentioned, Logan number 1 was great.
Yeah.
2 and 3.
All right.
Yeah, it
Very
didn't really
average.
pay off as much. But you know, like I just love that there's totally a pride that goes with looking back at that number 1.
Finding
saying,
one and saying you found it.
But also not only that, but to say like look back and go, wow, this paid off. I'm glad that I found this and stuck and got to read it all the way through and experience that ride over years, which is cool.
Very cool. So if you have a favorite number 1 comic that you want to tell us about, you can email us at contact@ifanboy.com.
Or call our voicemail line at 188-FANBOYS, which is 326-2697. You can tell us about your number 1 issue there. Keep it short.
And you could also go to, there's a post on this show at ifanboy.com and at revision3.com/ifanboy in the forums. But go there and tell us about first issues that you loved.
Your first time. Tell us about your first time.
And I'm the awkward one.
Who the hell picked Dragonlance: The Legend of Huma number 1?
I love Dragonlance. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. What about Waha number 1?
That was a funny book. That caused a lot. That was a big political thing at Marvel. A lot
Yeah.
of people
What
got
about
mad at that.
X-Men: The End, Book 3, X-Men and X-Men number 1?
That was a lot of fun. I
Didn't
enjoyed
end
that.
very well.
Oh,
I did.
here's one. Civil War Frontline number 1.
That was a great concept. The
great
first issue was
issue.
good. Yes.
Horrible
Paul Jenkins.
finish.
Not the same guy
Shazam.
that was Paul P. Jenkins.
Shazam: The Monster Society of Evil.
I like that whole series.
That whole series was terrible.
You don't know.
I'm gonna keep these.
No, Josh doesn't want to let go of his number 1s.
Keep them right.
He'll scan them for you.
I think I have another copy of that Daredevil.
All right. Well, then.
Look at the
I do. Like there's a few. I was writing.
Oh, we got that on tape.